In a world ruled by deception, one man vows to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. You think you can hide from me? For Detective Marlowe, the hunt is personal. This city has no room for secrets. Why are you doing this? Because I know the truth, but as the walls close in, the hunter becomes the hunted. How far will I go to destroy myself? This January, truth has a price. The morning sunlight slanted through the blinds of Marlowe's apartment, illuminating the clutter that had taken over his once tidy space. The walls were lined with corkboards covered in pinned photographs, hastily scribbled notes, and a web of string connecting seemingly unrelated pieces of information. Coffee cups and takeout containers littered the surfaces, evidence of sleepless nights spent chasing shadows. Marlowe's eyes were bloodshot as he scanned the wall again, searching for something he might have missed. Each photo and note represented a person, a place, or a moment tied to the secretive community he had come to view as a dangerous undercurrent in the city. Yet, despite his efforts, the leads were tenuous at best. Names without faces, addresses without answers. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his unkempt hair. The weight of his obsession was starting to show. He could feel it in the aching stiffness of his shoulders, the hollow pit in his stomach that no amount of food seemed to fill. But the frustration went deeper than that. It gnawed at the edges of his mind, a constant reminder of his failure to expose what he believed was a growing threat. The phone on the table buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. Leah Carter's name flashed on the screen. He hesitated before answering. "Marlowe, we need you on the McAllister case," she said without preamble. Her tone was curt, a clear indication of her thinning patience. "I'm working on something more pressing," he replied, his voice hoarse. He'd barely slept, the lines of fatigue evident in his tone. "More pressing than your actual job?" Leah shot back. "Do you even hear yourself? This obsession of yours. It's..." She trailed off, frustration palpable through the phone. "You're slipping, Marlowe. Everyone sees it. You need to pull it together." He ended the call without responding, guilt clashing with the determination that had gripped him. Leah wouldn't understand. None of them would. This wasn't just about a job. It was about protecting everything he believed in. He stood and faced the wall again. The collage of evidence stared back, taunting him. Somewhere in the chaos lay the key to unraveling the mystery. He just needed to find it. Desperation drove Marlowe to new extremes. He began surveillance on individuals he believed were connected to the secretive community. His methods grew invasive, treading dangerously close to illegality. He spent hours parked near known gathering spots, camera ready, eyes scanning every passerby for signs of familiarity. He followed his targets discreetly, memorizing their routines, the places they frequented, the people they met, the small details they probably didn't even realize they gave away. He rationalized his actions as necessary, even as he crossed moral and professional lines. The process was grueling and often fruitless. Hours of watching yielded mundane routines. Grocery runs, visits to the park, nights spent at unassuming cafes. Yet Marlowe's resolve didn't falter. To him, every interaction was a thread that might unravel the larger picture. One night, Marlowe followed a young man named Peter, a local artist whose avant-garde work had recently gained attention. From a gallery opening to a modest apartment complex, Peter's behavior was ordinary, unremarkable. But Marlowe's instincts told him to pay attention. He watched as Peter disappeared inside. His silhouette briefly visible through the curtains before the lights went out. Marlowe parked a safe distance away and waited. Hours passed, the cold seeping into his bones. But he remained vigilant. He scribbled notes in his journal, detailing the time Peter arrived, the layout of the building, the absence of visible tenants. It was a meticulous invasion of privacy, a line he had crossed without hesitation. Eventually, fatigue crept in, but Marlowe ignored it. His focus remained on the apartment, on the possibility of a breakthrough. This was no longer just an investigation. It was a personal crusade. As the weeks dragged on, Marlowe's behavior became increasingly erratic. His journal grew thicker, pages filled with detailed logs of observations, sketches of faces and places, timelines that linked tenuous connections. It was his lifeline, the only thing grounding him in his mission. But the toll was undeniable. His colleagues began to notice his absence during critical meetings. Leah's attempts to reach him turned from concern to anger. Her calls and messages met with silence. Even Marlowe's own sense of self began to blur, his identity consumed by the role he had assumed. Late one night, he found himself parked outside another apartment. The curtains were drawn, but shadows moved behind them. Marlowe's camera was trained on the window, his hands gripping it tightly. He'd been there for hours, the engine off, the chill biting through his coat. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. A faint laugh carried through the still night air. Marlowe's pulse quickened as he focused the camera lens, his heart pounding in anticipation. The shadows shifted, and for a fleeting moment, two figures stood close together, their postures intimate. It was enough to fuel Marlowe's determination. He scribbled another note in his journal, his handwriting jagged and hurried. This was the proof he needed, he told himself. This was the thread that would lead to the truth. As dawn broke over the city, Marlowe's exhaustion finally began to overtake him. He leaned back in his seat, his eyes heavy, his thoughts racing. The line between right and wrong had blurred to the point of non-existence. All that mattered now was the mission. Yet, as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the streets, doubt crept in. Leah's voice echoed in his mind, her pleas for him to step back, to return to reality. He thought of the faces he'd watched through his lens, faces that seemed less threatening and more human with each passing day. For the first time, he wondered if he was chasing shadows, if his obsession had blinded him to the truth. Still, he shook the doubt away. He couldn't turn back now. The path he had chosen was dark, but he believed it would lead him to the light. The engine hummed as he started the car, the journal sitting beside him like a silent companion, its pages overflowing with the twisted map of his obsession. As he drove, the city's early morning silence enveloped him, broken only by the faint hum of streetlights and the occasional rustle of wind. Every shadow that flickered in his peripheral vision felt alive, a reminder of the secrets he was desperate to unearth. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his knuckles white, his mind replaying the fleeting moments of intimacy he had witnessed through his lens. In his mind, those figures weren't people anymore. They were puzzles, their every gesture a potential clue. But beneath his determination, a new sensation stirred, a whisper of fear that he was sinking too deeply, that he might never find his way back to normalcy. The sensation grew with each passing block, his heartbeat sinking with the rhythm of the streetlights flashing overhead. He pulled to a stop at an intersection, staring at the red light that glared back at him like an unspoken warning. For a moment, he hesitated. Could he still turn back? Could he close the journal, clear the walls of evidence, and pretend none of this ever happened? But as the light turned green, his resolve hardened. The threads he'd been pulling were tightening, drawing him deeper into a web of shadows and whispers. It was only a matter of time before the secrets hidden in the city's depths surfaced. But whether they would bring him redemption or ruin remained a mystery that sent a shiver down his spine. But things take a shocking turn, and trust me, it's unlike anything you've ever read before. Want to know what happens next? I won't spoil it for you here. You can dive into the full story in this amazing ebook. It's packed with twists, suspense, and a conclusion that will blow your mind. The full story is waiting for you. Just click the link pinned in the comments section and grab your copy. You'll be glad you did. So, what are you waiting for? Unlock the full adventure now, and let me know what you think of the ending. It's unforgettable, and that's where this episode ends. But trust me, the story is just getting started. In the next part, things take an unexpected turn, and secrets you never saw coming will be revealed. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, so you're the first to catch the next episode. And if you're as hooked as I am, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Got any theories or guesses about what might happen next? Share them, I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Gay Hunter. Until then, stay curious and stay tuned.